Hello, everyone. You are welcome to the JMA Connections this Monday, the 20th day of April 2026. I'm delighted to be here this day, and I want to take this opportunity to say Happy Country Sunday to all the people of the Southern Cameroons. I say Country Sunday because that is how we call Mondays. Mondays are generally ghost towns days in the Southern Cameroons. The Pope has come and gone. And as soon as the Pope left, the people immediately returned to the natural posture, that of continuing to inform the world that it will never be business as usual in the Southern Cameroons as long as we still have occupational forces from La République du Cameroun in our land, and as long as we still have a colonial administration from La République du Cameroun in our land. The people took time off to receive the Pope, to give him a warm welcome, and to make him understand that the people of the Southern Cameroons are a peace-loving people, that the people of the Southern Cameroons are a hospitable people, and that the people of the Southern Cameroons love God. We know that without God, all our efforts, all our endeavors will come to naught. And so when it comes to honoring God, to receiving God's messenger, we do it very, very unreservedly. And so I'd like to continue to congratulate the people of the Southern Cameroons on this. And I have seen a lot of literature on social media about Archbishop Andrew Nyih, about positions he has taken, about statements he has made, and in some spheres, Archbishop Andrew Nyih is hailed. In others, they say he really needs to apologize, and some even more, I should say, radical ones are saying that the Pope needs to immediately replace him as Archbishop. But you see, this is not the subject matter of this conversation, because I will find time to come here and let us look at the persona of Andrew Nyih and what role he has been playing as far as this bloody conflict in the Southern Cameroons is concerned. This is really important because there are certain things that we need to know, because they will define certain course of actions that we want to take. But the subject matter of today's discussion is something totally different. You know, Yaoundé is at pains. In Yaoundé, people are not happy. People in governing spheres in Yaoundé are actually not happy with the Pope's visit. They couldn't say it. They have been exercising restraint. Some have been held. It's true that there are some in the regime who have actually gone out there to vomit certain things. We will look at those ones tomorrow. But what I want to say is, in governing circles in Yaoundé, there is what is called buyer's remorse. The buyer's remorse stems not only from the very strong speech that the Pope made in Yaoundé, and some very solid declarations he made in Bamenda, but the buyer's remorse comes as a result of the regime, a system that believes a lot in mysticism, settling down to look at the signs and wonders of that particular visit. When they look at the signs and wonders of that particular visit, they tell themselves that they have been played. I took time off to talk with quite some regime barons in Yaoundé who told me they are not buying certain actions that were taken because those actions have significance that will go far beyond what was interpreted in the public as a visual. So one key thing happened that the Pope did in Bamenda that has left the circles in Yaoundé extremely unhappy. They're not talking about it publicly, but they are fretting about it really, really seriously. And then another thing also happened in Bamenda. You know, the Pope's visit was an opportunity for contenders for the post of vice president to, flex their muscles, to seek visibility, to fight as hard as possible to get prominence and to see how to distinguish themselves from the lot. This is where I'll even begin. And that's why you see the name Atanga Ponji comes to lips. You know why? Because Atanga Ponji told himself this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And he was not going to waste time or to play around, not taking full advantage of it. First, he got picked as the President of the Republic's representative to accompany the Pope to Bamenda, not the Prime Minister. The President of the Republic did not pick the Prime Minister. They picked Paul Atanganji to accompany the Pope as a representative of the head of state to Bamenda. Once that was done, Atanganji settled down on a number of things. One, he had to use as much money as he could at several levels to take full advantage of this moment. Paul Atanganji, of course, you heard from Boris Berthold, not necessarily from me, right? You heard from Boris Berthold that Paul Atanganji handed 18 million CFA francs to the impostor calling himself city mayor of Bamenda, Achobang Paul, the one who says he's also a man of God. Of course, I understand he will even soon be naming himself, is it bishop, or he may become archbishop direct without passing through bishop. So money was handed out to him, some 18 million francs, but I understand it's even more. Because when I talk to people within the circles of Paul Atanganji, they say Boris Berthold got it wrong, that money was more than that. Because Atanganji needed Paul Achobang to make sure to mobilize a set of people, and they had to occupy a particular area, some particular section at the airport. Their role was to cheer Atanga Ponji on, cheer him on as much as possible, make him look extremely likable, and Atanga Ponji had to go around there for what is usually called, a mix with the crowd. He wasn't the one visiting. He wasn't the President of the Republic. He's not the Pope, because the Pope that should go in what they call in French normally burn the fool. That is mixing into the crowds. So Atanganji had to make this really, it was very well choreographed. They're here to say, oh, Atango, we love you. Atanga, we this and that, all whatnot. And of course, it worked. I'll tell you something Niccolo Machiavelli says. And you bear with me for a second while I look up that thing that Niccolo Machiavelli says, which I set out, to share. Because it's very interesting. People sometimes just talk. But there are other people who take time and plan out things. Niccolo Machiavelli, the author of the very celebrated book that everyone knows, of the book known as The Prince. The book Paul Biya says is the last book he reads before he sleeps every night. Niccolo Machiavelli says, people judge what they see, not what is true. That's what Niccolo Machiavelli says. People judge what they see, not what is true. And so Paul Atanganji, with this at the back of his mind, knew videos, images of him, going to meet people and people say, yeah, Atango, we love you, Atango, you are this and all whatnot. Will play the magic for him. Will give an impression completely different of how the people of the southern Cameroon see him, especially those in Bamenda, from what everybody generally knows. So, as far as Atanga Ponji is concerned, he doesn't bother about whether these people will think this to be real or this will be truth or not. But he knows that when Niccolo Machiavelli was saying this, he has studied human nature, that people judge by what they see, not what is true. And it didn't work, of course. He had some organizations that immediately said, oh, Paul Atanganji, he was the man of the match in Bamenda. Paul Atanganji was the boy of the day. And I even saw some online platforms, one of them, Mimimefo, saying that Paul Atanganji's popularity has risen so fast that I don't even know when they took time to measure. I don't even know what instruments they used in measuring. I don't even know when they took time to conduct a survey, who conducted a survey or not. But you see, that is how you do it. You choreograph it, you arrange it, you make sure you arrange with social media actors here and there. You make sure you arrange with organizations up and down that will come out and say, this is that this thing you see, this is. And then, while I was still looking at that, of course, the next move is hilarious. Because that next move is you find newspapers coming out with articles that say this. As I can see here, a rights group. One, they did not mention the rights group here, and I haven't had time to look at it. I'm looking up as we speak. Rights group rates Minister Atanganji. Rights group rates Minister Atanganji Paul high, urges him to lead peace process to end the armed conflict in Anglophone Cameroon. Oh my goodness. Just now, the same Paul Atanganji that everybody knows, that is the most antagonistic figure, not only in the southern Cameroons, but even in La République du Cameroon. Now, Paul Atanganji is the most antagonistic figure. That Paul Atanganji is that same one that stands on the streets and tell everyone that has ears to hear that there is no such thing that exists like any problem in the southern Cameroons. How do you say someone who doesn't believe that there is a problem should suddenly become the one that should go to resolve that problem? And I was looking, the author of that rights group, he calls it Botphone Human Rights CEO, Muda Walter, of course, that's it, Muda Walter. So that rights group, this is the first time I'm hearing about the rights group's name, Botphone Human Rights. Botphone Human Rights Group. I don't know where it is. I'm still trying to look at the name of the thing and to understand where, okay. I'm down on civil society organizations considered a threat to the Biya. Because this article says this, Minister Paul Atanganji cuts the figure of a brute and bully of humility across the Cameroonian civil society. In the run-up to the 2025 presidential election, the Minister of Territorial Administration clamped down on civil society organizations, CSOs, considered a threat to the Biya regime. So when you find that someone who is described as, even by in the same article, but now you find some obscure, little known, never before heard about so-called human rights groups known as Botphone Human Rights Group, say, oh, Paul Atanganji should lead the crusade, should lead the peace process. Like I said, when I see the name and all of those things, if you check out behind this, you find Achobang Paul behind this particular organization. So this is carefully choreographed. First, you charter the people who will be the hand clappers, who play the clack, to sing all those things that they sang there, to shout all those things that they sing. And then you are seeing it on television as a publicity. So it seems spontaneous. To you, it seems really spontaneous. It seems something that happened naturally, but it's carefully choreographed. Next, You get an organization, obscure that nobody knows, says, no, Paul Atanganji do this. Next, it's on the newspaper headlines. So, everybody says, oh gosh, yeah, Paul Atanganji. Then I went on TikTok. I saw my very good friend, Gary Boy. Gary Boy is my very good friend. And Gary Boy says, you people see, Paul Atanganji, now after this thing, now like this, if Paul Atanganji stands for elections with Osi Joshua and Bamenda there, ooh, he will grind Osi Joshua. Hey, because Paul Atanganji was lively. Osi Joshua is boring. How can you be an advocate and an attacker at the same time, my brother Gary Boy? So this is what it is. We need to know this. La République du Cameroon is a country of many wonders. And so therefore, when you see these kind of things, don't even fret. Because they are generally well arranged, properly orchestrated, thoroughly choreographed, and there is a key objective that is sought. Paul Atanganji remains Paul Atanganji. The very next minute, let Paul Atanganji have another outing after this one. You start wondering if it is the same person. This is the person of the serpent affamé. This is the person of the voices in the bushes. This is the same person that the Pope was addressing. When the Pope said people should stop using the name or word of God to justify evil, to justify cruelty. You recall the video where the lady in Kumba told Paul Atanganji right in the hall after children were killed, and they came trying to use Bible verses to justify the murder of innocent children. And that brave lady walked up and said, objection. That's the same Paul Atanganji that they're talking about. I wouldn't take a lot of our time on that kind of thing, but it was important to talk about it. Because in the light of Niccolo Machiavelli's assertion, you should understand that those things, though it's easy to underlook them, don't. Because this is exactly how actors play with reality. This is exactly how political actors manipulate public opinion, manipulate public perception. And this is so important. Now let's get to the crux of the matter on this podcast. The Pope's visit. Like I said earlier, in Yaoundé, right now, those people they recall, if we're talking among the Basa, you call them the Mbombok. Those people they call them Mbombok. The people, the archangels of the occultic system in Yaoundé have been scrutinizing the signs and wonders surrounding the Pope's visit. They have been looking carefully at every single move he made. And they came to the conclusion that what the Pope did in Bamenda, releasing doves into the atmosphere, was not merely a sign of peace. They are really overworked. They look at it, they say, yes. If a dove symbolizes peace, releasing a dove in the atmosphere, in a territory where the people are seeking freedom, in a territory where there's an active liberation movement ongoing, it departs from just talking about freedom or about peace. It is now more about freedom. Then they went back to the speeches. They said, the people of the Southern Cameroons on social media have been talking a lot, justice, justice, justice. And the Pope's speech replicated the word justice on about every paragraph of his speech. And then in Bamenda, the Pope did not only condemn tyrants around the world who are confiscating the wills of the people. The Pope did not only condemn those who are using religion, the Bible and God's word to justify evil, to justify cruelty. He released doves into the atmosphere, a sign of freedom. And so they were looking at this. And I had one of the regime barons, you may laugh, but this is the truth. I have one of the regime barons in Yaoundé share me this piece of literature. He said, Mr. AKUROH, look at this. This is what we have been working on for the past 48 to 72 hours. Looking at this thing and trying to analyze as much as possible to try to convince the system that this is not what they thought, but they are not buying it. From this piece he sent to me, he says, releasing doves into the air traditionally signifies both peace and freedom, though the exact meaning depends on the context. And they say, let's look at it. So they look at this. Peace. Say the strongest and most widely recognized symbolism of doves comes from the Bible. Specifically, the story of Noah, where a dove returns with an olive branch to signal the end of the flood. Because of this, doves have long represented peace after conflict. Peace after conflict, reconciliation, hope, and renewal. That's why you often see doves released at peace ceremonies, memorials, and religious events. That's it. That ties now. These doves were released at the religious events, although this wasn't a peace ceremony. But the regime says no. What they are bothered about more is going back to what Niccolo Machiavelli said, and which I quoted a while ago, because this is the crux of the matter. This is where the whole thing is boring the regime, because originally, as they say, people judge by what they see, not by what is true. So it says, at the same time, the act of releasing releasing the doves adds another layer of meaning. What's that layer of meaning? Letting go. Liberation. The idea of souls of people being set free. So the man said, this is the part Yaoundé is not swallowing. Because he said, now, it would appear they have talked to a lot of people. And the people on the ground in the southern Cameroon said, the Pope came to motivate the people to understand that all they need to do is fight until they are set free. Because look at this, what he says. This is a document the regime bearer sent to me. He said, look at the aspect of freedom. He said, at the same time, the act of releasing the doves adds another layer of meaning to the issue of peace. It means letting go. La République du Cameroon. Do you understand this? So the Pope was like in a way saying, let go the people of the southern Cameroons. You have held them down too long. It's liberation. And there's an active liberation movement raging in the southern Cameroon. The idea of souls of people being set free. He said, now we go to the Bible. Go down to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. It's just like, go down to Yaoundé and tell Biya, tell La République to let the people of God go. So in this sense, the act of releasing those doves in the atmosphere, this is from a Yaoundé regime baron, can symbolize freedom, especially in contexts involving remembrance, justice, or release from suffering. So it's a bottom line, the dove itself represents peace. That's the dove itself symbolizes peace. Releasing the dove symbolizes rather freedom. So together, peace, peaceful freedom, or freedom grounded in peace. Peaceful freedom, grounded in peace. So my friends in the Yaoundé system said, no. We were played. Who played them? They were played. Because take this, and I know that across the southern Cameroons, this kind of thought has reverberated strongly to find government officials in Yaoundé spending sleepless nights to study the significance of an action that to the common mind, it was just innocent. Oh, the Pope has released that it is peace. He said, no. If the Pope, this is what they say in Yaoundé, that if the Pope had caused an olive branch to be put in the beak of the doves before releasing them, they would have considered that the intention was actually talking peace. Because with Noah, it was still that freedom from the flood. But it came with an olive branch. He said, but these doves were simply released like that into the atmosphere in a city known to be the epicenter of a fight for freedom. In a city where the people are extremely educated politically. where the people know how to read signs and wonders. This was not an innocent action. That this act was not innocent. And so in Yaoundé, they are asking themselves, is it like they did not carefully understand the underlings of the Pope's visit? And right now they're even questioning the rationale of the Pope visiting Bamenda, when for the past 9 years or so, no international official has dared to go close to Bamenda. They're even asking questions. What is the connection between the church and the so-called separative movements? That they have never yielded to anything from anyone. Yaoundé expected the people of the Southern Cameroon, the liberation movement, to announce ghost towns, to announce boycotts, to announce this, to swear that there will be fire and brimstone if anyone goes out to receive the Pope. But on the contrary, there was a strategic, unilateral ceasefire decision published and which appeared in international media. 3 days of ceasefire to facilitate the Pope's visit. They even worry that there were messages by armed fighters, people carrying guns from the Unity Warriors, urging people to go receive the Pope. So they ask, was there any collusion? Is there anything that happened that they did not take note of? And I'm told a lot of these questions will be directed to Paul Atanganji and to Archbishop Andrew Nyih, who may soon be summoned. Especially Archbishop Andrew Nyih, to say exactly why he was so hell-bent for the Pope to visit Bamenda. This may have passed you by just like that. But evil systems that believe in esotericism, they never ever take anything for granted. And we're getting this from the heart of the system. That is their appreciation. So that tells you the level of the pain that they have in their hearts, because they feel that they were played with such visuals. They say such visuals are very strong. Oh yes, because you look back at it, it says a significance of letting doves in the air. So the act of releasing doves adds another layer to the initial meaning of a dove being a bird of peace. It means letting go, liberation, the idea of souls or people being set free. This is what they can't swallow. Because you say people hide behind the fact that the dove itself signifies peace. Say no, the dove itself is peace. But releasing that dove is freedom, means that the dove had been chained. Means that the dove has not been free. Means that the dove has been in bondage. Exactly what the people of the Southern Cameroon say they are in. So releasing the dove to fly free in a setting like Bamenda, in the restive Southern Cameroons, was not a gift to Yaoundé. It was a poisoned chalice. That is their conclusion. So Yaoundé is definitely not happy about this. They are not. And I'm sure before long, they'll be showing that they are not happy about what happened. And now, my take, because what I was sharing with you was, like I said, this shit. This what was shared with me by Regime Baron in Yaoundé. My take now is for the people of the Southern Cameroons who might not have seen it from this angle. Know ye that the enemy is in pains. Know ye therefore that the impetus for you to recognize that even in the spirit realm, this freedom has been pronounced. Know ye that this freedom has been pronounced and that it is ours to lose. You notice that as soon as the Pope left, the hostilities resumed. They didn't resume while he was there. They resumed as soon as he left. end up, a police officer of La République fell less than 24 hours after the Pope left the southern Cameroons. In Ekona, a gendarme officer of La République fell. Now in Bambui, just yesterday, an officer of the Air Force of La République du Cameroun fell. So this tells you what it needs to be said. This tells you what needs to be said. What you need to know. That as a matter of fact, the people of the southern Cameroons observed the truce to receive the Pope. And they've received the message they ought to receive from the Pope, and they have gone back to their activities. My point is with the civil society. This is Monday, just the Monday after that Pope's visit. La République du Cameroun, they would definitely have been watching to see that, okay, this Monday, people say, no, the Pope has come and brought peace. Everything is over. The people know that the Pope talked about justice. The people know that the Pope talked about freedom. And freedom is earned. You don't pick it on a platter of gold. That is why everywhere in the southern Cameroons this Monday, the people, the civil society to which I belong, they've shut up their businesses, shut up their offices, locked their homes, and they're indoors, continuing to maintain the resistance, to tell the world, this is how we do it. And we will do it this way all the way to the end, until we touch freedom land. So, I would like to end this communication here. I'm delighted that you found time to be with me on this broadcast. If this is the first time that you are joining us on the JMA Connections, I'd encourage you to go right ahead and hit that subscribe button. Do not forget to personalize, so that anytime any new thing drops on this platform, you'll be the first to know. And it is traditional on this platform, we share the links to the communications. So while you are watching, share the link as widely as you can. Let other people have the opportunity to share in this message. And as I've said before, I don't copyright my productions, because my productions are meant for mobilization, for information, for sensitization, and to help the people of the southern Cameroons to continue to stand for what we believe in. For that reason, I allow as many platforms as possible to make use of my communications, particularly for the purpose of mobilizing, educating, and sensitizing the population. So share the link as much as you can. And of course, I encourage everyone to be part of the conversation. So drop your comment. Ensure you're not insulting anyone. You're not using bad words. You're not harassing anyone. You are simply contributing to the debate, contributing to, our freedom quest. And so your posts or your reactions should not be insulting anyone in particular. Let's keep it polite. Let's keep it concise. And, let's focus on the issues. And to crown it all, do not forget to hit that like button. It goes a long way, right? And so thank you so much for your very kind attention. It was my pleasure being here with you today. I'll be right back on this platform tomorrow. To God be the glory.
Pronto?